Recently went to Japan and also back to Hong Kong. I wanted to wear a kimono, like a female version of a kimono, which is like a Japanese traditional garment. Particularly my uncle, I told him, and then the response was, the police is literally just right around the corner. Like if they see you, they're gonna catch you and put you into jail. Because I never grew up thinking that I was beautiful. Like where I'm from, like my face isn't considered beautiful. I didn't have like a chiseled jaw. I don't have like luscious hair, let's say that. And to me, I always had that kind of like vision of like what a model should look like, and that was not me. Being Asian, and like my family never really like talk about like being like fashion model, like never talk about stuff like that. It's always about academic, also like about just like studying hard and becoming something that, you know, you can make a lot of money from. So like modeling is none of that. It's like kind of like the dream.
Sensational.
And go.
John is a model, influencer, and I believe you work in fashion as well.
Yep.
John, tell us a little bit about how you got into modeling first and foremost.
Modeling is weird because I never grew up thinking that I was beautiful. Like, because like being in the UK, being Asian, and like my family never really like talk about like being like a fashion model, like never talk about stuff like that. It's always about academic, also like about just like studying hard and becoming something that, you know, you can make a lot of money from. So like modeling is none of that. It's like kind of like the dream. And then like in our culture, we need to be realistic about everything. So when I kind of went into kind of just taking pictures with photographers, working with them, I realized that people actually liked my look and that they actually responded on Instagram and social media. And I just thought, like, why not just give it a go? Like, I have nothing to lose. I got all these pictures I did just for fun, and then I just sent it to you guys, and then you signed me. And I'm just like, fuck, I didn't realize that there was a possibility that I like someone like me who can actually do this. So
what made you think that you couldn't model, apart from the fact of the technicals of your family saying that that's not realistic? Did you think you visually couldn't model as well? Yeah,
self-doubts.
Okay.
And also in like Asian culture, or like where I'm from, like my face isn't considered beautiful. Like my face, like I have nose bridge. I didn't have like a chiseled jaw. I don't have like luscious hair, let's say that. And to me, I always had that kind of like vision of like what a model should look like, and that was not me. So I always just look at myself and just be like, you're fine, but you're not like a 10. You know?
Which, if you don't mind me asking, which country are you from?
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. Which is used to be a Chinese...
now is part of China.
Now is part of China, indeed. So you're saying in Hong Kong, you're not the idea of what a male model should look like, basically. Yeah, or like if I am a model, I'll just be like doing nothing, like not like the main focus, let's say. Like they'd be like, oh, like you're working in modeling, but like you're not like the model.
You're not, what a model is deemed to be in Hong Kong.
Exactly.
Did you grow up in Hong Kong?
Yeah, so I grew up there until I was 11, and I moved to Portsmouth when I was 11. Well, sorry, did I say it right? 11. Anyway, year 7. I moved here when I was in year 7, and then I stayed here ever since.
Amazing. Do you get to go back often?
Yeah, so before I would go almost 3 times a year. And then now I go back maybe once a year. I actually haven't been back home for 3 years before my last trip because of COVID. And I've just been like just trying to work as hard as I can, just grind and do my stuff.
Do you feel like when you first came over to this country, there were any obstacles that you had to face?
It's so weird because when I was younger, I don't really think of obstacles that way. I don't think of like, oh, this is going to definitely create some trauma like in the future. I just thought like, oh, this is just something I'm going through. Like I just have to learn this language. And then I had my brother at boarding school. So like he was always, he wasn't always there for me, but he was there. And there was someone that I could go to. And then when he graduated, that definitely became more difficult.
So when you went to, did you go to boarding school?
I did, yeah.
In the UK in Portsmouth? Wow.
Yeah.
So you didn't just move here. You got stuck in you like Harry Potter
stuck
boarding school.
You got Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, lived in a dungeon, like a room down staircase. Yeah, horrible.
Oh my god! Were you immersed in English? Did you know the language? Was it quite an easy move in that regard?
So when I was in Hong Kong, I mean, everybody has to learn English in Hong Kong. It's like a given because Hong Kong used to be a UK colony, right? So we had to learn it, but there were like 3 groups in English class, and I was always in the bottom. So I was not
It's a
not
hard
great.
language, objectively.
I mean, I don't know. Some other people pick it up right away, but it took me a while to get it right. And also, I'm dyslexic, so it wasn't easy for me.
Well, you know what? So was Einstein, and so is Tom Cruise. So
Yeah, I'm very closely related to them.
You are absolutely.
Einstein and Tom Cruise.
Yeah. My accolades. It's going to be very similar.
So, in terms of moving to the UK, you couldn't speak English, blah blah blah. Do you feel like that has had an impact on who you are now?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's always in the back of my mind. It just makes me feel like I'm less than. That I'm not as good. Yeah.
What, the fact that you'd moved from Hong Kong?
I think so. In a way that like I didn't think that I could submerge in like the groups around me. That made me feel like inferior. Yeah.
Okay, and do you feel that way now?
Yeah, a little bit still. That I do think that like with how I speak, how I present myself, like, and also my sexuality. I think that like it's like an intersection of all these things happening that all adds up and telling me that I'm just not up to par compared to other people.
I actually think that's a common problem for a lot of immigrants who come to this country. I don't think it's exclusively for yourself. I feel like even my parents, when they first came to this country from Jamaica, had the same issue, and it was probably a lot worse in the sense that there wasn't many other black people here, and there was a lot of white racist people here as well. And I think immediately you would feel inferior. Yeah. I'm sure you had the same impact when you came to the UK. It's kind of like, I'm probably the only Asian person in the school, or one of very few Asian people in the school. Yeah, don't speak very good English, and immediately you're going to have an inferiority complex because you're like, well, everyone else is getting along and they have their groups, and I'm just here by myself, kind of thing.
Yeah, especially like when my ex, he was from the UK and he moved to Hong Kong, and then like if he just speak like one Chinese word, people are like, oh my god, like amazing, like you speak Chinese.
It's different.
Yeah, and I come here and I fuck one word up and they'd be like, oh my god, you can't speak.
Yeah.
Especially at the workplace.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you notice it a lot more there?
Yeah. They judge you so much harder. They just like, they become so harsh when they criticizing you when you are doing your job.
Oh gosh. How do you have any ways that you combat that, being in the UK for as long as you have been?
Yeah, being a bad bitch. Just doing what I want. Yeah. No, just knowing that like that is not going to alter who you really are, like the things that you can offer to other people. I think like when you are only just stuck in that confine of like in the workplace, you think that all your value is based on what you can do and how you perform. But in the real world, that's not the only metric that you can measure yourself. Like you can also like look at like how nice and how kind that you are to other people and how hardworking you are to making other people's lives be better. I think like those are what I value more than just like being the highest performing person in the corporation.
No, that's incredible.
That's really profound what you just said there. Do you think that's a lesson that you've learned recently? Because when I first met you, which was beginning of last year, right?
I think 2 years ago.
It's 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And is that when you started modelling?
Yeah.
I feel like who you are now is very different to, and say for everyone, who I was then was different, but I feel like you seem a lot more at ease with who you are now than you were 2 years ago. Yeah, and I feel like the recent trip, I think even before the trip to Japan that you had, I feel like you've gone through almost like this moment, this abyss where you're kind of like, you know what, this is who I am. I'm claiming this. Yeah. Do you feel that's happened in the past few months?
100%. So for anybody who hasn't seen my Instagram posts, I recently went to Japan and also back to Hong Kong. the post was me running away from my family on a family trip with my grandma, my uncle, my mom, and my brother. And I wanted to wear a kimono, like a female version of a kimono, which is like a Japanese traditional garment. And when I told my family, particularly my uncle, I told him, and then the response was, the police is literally just right around the corner. Like, if they see you, they're gonna catch you and put you into jail. And then knowing what I know, like living in the UK, and also of all the things that I see, like I watch like Drag Race, like I listen to things that are just so, you know, like advanced, well, for Hong Kong, a country like Hong Kong, in terms of like LGBT rights. I know that like by wearing like a female garment is not going to upset people, especially in Japan, where they're so full of like crazy, amazing, fabulous, insane culture that I knew is not going to be a problem. Like, so I guess in a way it was for me to prove my family wrong in a sense, but not in like a vicious way, but just to show them like, this is the part of society that you don't see. That like, if I do this thing, I'm going to change your mind, and also it's going to make me feel like I can truly live my truth and just be myself, and inspiring other people to do so, because I knew what I was going to do with that content. I knew what my intention was. So when that happened, I just told my uncle, like, I understand your concern, but that's not my concern. And if you feel like I'm going to get you into trouble, we can split up. I'm going to go with my mom, and we're going to do our content and come back and meet you guys after. And that's what we did.
How was the response from the Japanese people?
They loved it.
Really?
Of course they did.
Yeah, I mean, like so many people, okay, so physically at the temple, people just looking at me, it's like, yeah, it's like,
really?
do your thing, yeah. And like some people even like came up and like took pictures with us. And I just thought, like, you know what, like this is kind of like what you expected. Yeah. And then online, so many positive comments about just not having seen anyone done that before. Which I thought was kind of surprising.
That was the response online?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was really surprised. And then of course there's a fair share of like bad comments, but I don't think about those.
Do you ever sort of take note of them or read them? Do you?
Yeah.
And how do you combat them? Because I mean, I imagine
the bad comments,
the negative comments.
Yeah. Okay. So my initial comments would be like anger and also like self-criticism.
Yeah.
But I've learned that those are not true, and those are just not helpful. Like, all the things that they've said about me, I've said to myself already. like all the things, like, let's say like, oh, like, you're so ugly, blah, blah. Like, I know that could be a possibility for you, but like for me, like,
old news.
like, yeah, like I know that I'm like beautiful. Like, I don't care about like what you have to say. But also like I want to think about like the life that they go through, because I know that if you have that much hatred, that just means that you are going through a lot of that yourself. Like people projecting that onto you, and that has nothing to do with me. So when I think about that, it's like I think about how can I help them to actually understand that wearing a kimono or wearing anything feminine has nothing to do with your manliness. It's not going to take anything away from who you are, which I think is what the main problem is with people.
I feel like, so we obviously live in the UK, and woke culture is definitely a thing. I think because we're surrounded by people of a similar mindset, in the sense that we have the freedoms and we have the liberty and we have the liberal thoughts. Yeah, we sometimes forget that other countries are not quite there yet. Yeah, and hearing the story about your family, and not specifically just your family, but that environment, Hong Kong and other countries that haven't quite come onto this woke train.
There's like this specific framework in Asia country or anywhere that is not open to kind of people like us, is most they see it as like sort of like a perversion. That's kind of like context, and another context would be like this is always like a joke that if a man were to wear a dress, people would just think that it's comedy,
Right.
and they would choose to laugh at it, but they will never actually think about what if this is what a person wants to do, or how they want to love. Like they don't think about that. It's mostly about entertainment and value.
Right.
Do they think it's fixable?
Yeah, they think it's like a disease.
Okay.
Kind of like how like religion would see homosexuality back in the days.
Right.
Okay. So they can just preach it out of you. Just keep preaching it out of you and it's going to disappear.
Yeah, or they don't talk about it.
Okay.
Or they be like, oh, like, have you found a wife yet?
Right.
Are you going to get married with the lovely lady yet?
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah. And I'll tell, like, my grandma will always say that to me when I go home, and I can't really tell them. So I'll just say, yeah.
Do they not know
She's
then?
on her way.
Do they not know that?
My grandma doesn't, but my dad, my mom, my brother do.
Okay.
Yeah, and some of my uncles. Yeah, but I can't. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, there's no point. There's no point at this stage in life, I think, when I'm
like that.
in this country.
It's so strange because, again, back to the thing that, maybe I'm a bit ignorant, but I would assume that most of the world would be kind of woke to this, like, people being homosexual or people being different. Let's say people being different from the norm.
Yeah,
but it's not the case, is it? It's not the case at all.
Even America. I mean, America could be considered like the most woke country, but then like you always have like the divide between people who are so open, like so far left and so far right.
Yes.
And I think it applies to every country. I mean, like in Hong Kong, like there are people who are pro LGBT. It's not like there are none, but
it's just not given much of a voice there.
Yeah, and also like it's just like the majority vote will not be in favor.
Right.
That's more of the case, I think.
How do you feel? First of all, if you don't mind me asking, when did you know that you were? Let's just say different. Let's say
gay.
Yeah. When did you realize that?
When I saw the Calvin Klein packaging at shops.
How old were you?
Maybe when I was like 13, maybe like year 9-ish.
Okay.
But I started doing things with a guy when I was in year 7, and then that kind of like led me into knowing. But then I was still so confused because like there's no books, or like nobody's talking about that. And then when like nobody's giving you that information, like you're kind of just stuck there being like really confused about what's this feeling inside.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think at that point when I saw the packaging, I'm just like, okay, something is up. Yeah, physically.
How did you approach that? Did you tell anyone straight away, or did you kind of think to yourself, I can change this, I want to change, or was it more like I need to embrace this?
Okay, so when I went to boarding school, it was tough because like besides my sexuality, like just being Chinese, just being like someone who loves art and not care about like business and like what straight man cares about, like I was just there thinking like, damn, like I'm so unlike other people. And then plus like putting that sexuality thing into the mix, I'm just like, fuck, like nothing I do follows what everybody does. And then I just think, if that's the case, well, I didn't actually think about it when I was young. At that point, I'm just like, okay, you know what? Like, I don't think that this is gonna work out if I keep forcing myself to do other things, because I try to be more mask. I try to be more like them, and I'm just like, there's no way that I can be like them. And then maybe because of that, I always like kind of isolate myself and ask myself those questions. Like, I go online and just like find stuff. And then when I was about year 10 or 11, I kind of started listening to Lady Gaga in my room, and I realized, because Born This Way just came out, it's like the gay anthem that we know 10 years later. Like at that point, I just realized like, damn, like there is this possibility for me to just be and be happy and just live. And I think like, if I hadn't have that I wouldn't arrive to where I am today. So at that point, I've learned just to stay on that track, because it is the right one, baby. I'm just gonna keep believing in that. And every time I do that, good things happen. So from that point onwards, I know that like I have the confidence in just doing what I want, and it'll be fine.
That's incredible. It's amazing how that came from Born This Way as well.
Yeah.
That Born This Way laid the groundwork for you to be in your words.
Yeah, because nobody tells you to love yourself. It was considered cringy. It was considered like just so like like feelings,
like boosting yourself up.
Yeah,
that was never a thing.
Never
10
a
years
thing.
ago.
No.
Don't you feel? And I think I don't know if you can relate to this, but don't you feel that the fact that you were different? Again, I keep using this word different because I'm going to use it on myself in a minute. But
yeah,
different when you were younger, which was really hard and isolated you from everyone else. Now as an adult is a huge benefit, right? Because when I was younger, I used to listen, this is not comparative to you at all, but I used to listen to like Radiohead and music that wasn't considered black music, and I wouldn't be able to tell anyone. I'd be like listening to it like secretly by myself, and like, I love this, but I can't tell anyone because no one can relate to this. And when you get older, it's like every black person's into Radiohead, and you find other people who are like, oh, I love rock music as well. But when you're younger, it's like you get isolated because it's hard. The world's so hard when you're smaller.
And when you're different, like people love to destroy you. They love to criticize you.
And like you said, you start criticizing yourself. You're like, why do I like Radiohead? Like, is there something wrong with me? I'm black.
You internalize everything.
Absolutely.
And in your teenage years, they're such formative years, and no one is nice when you're a teenager. So to go through all of that, and then to have these differences that are separate from the norm in society, depending on where you place yourself, it can be very damaging.
Oh, for sure.
And to pull yourself out of that, I imagine, so liberating.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there were people who were supportive.
Yeah.
Like, I think like teachers recognized what I was, and they always gave me like leeway into doing what I wanted and not tell me that, oh, you have to wear uniform the same way as everybody, because I would just pull out like really like weird clothes. Like I look at pictures, I'm just like, damn, I would bully myself.
So you didn't have to wear a uniform at boarding school?
We did. Yeah. Like I mean, like there was less kind of like freedom, like from year 7 till year 11.
Right.
And then in sixth form you can wear like suits, right? But then I always just like find ways to make it like my
your own.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
I wear like polka dot shirts, I wear like cropped like suit jackets, and people were just like, what the fuck is he wearing? And I think that's why people just thought like, damn, like we have to hate on him because like teachers are letting him do that, and like none of the other people could.
Right.
So I think that's kind of what got me into kind of like trouble, I suppose, in school.
But it's all like you would say right now, those experiences you went through have turned you into what you are now, which is a strong, confident person who knows exactly who they are. Yeah. And when we're talking about masculine and feminine tropes, I feel like as someone who's masculine, you don't quite know who you are at times. You're almost lost in this place where you are trying to prove that you're masculine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I went through that like the last few years, actually.
Really? You're trying to go against the grain of your heart, or?
I mean, it's getting muscular, talking with a deep voice like I'm doing now. I guess it's all like part of like a performance with our sexuality, and then I guess like I just was really trying to perform that masculinity to a level where I'll get respect.
Okay.
Because I feel like the only way that like, especially in the gay community as well, like the only way, not only way, but back in the days, if you are femme, people would be like, no. Only like masculine guys would get the attention and get the love that everybody wants.
In the gay community?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're not masculine, people just like, oh, twink. By the way, twink is a skinny gay person.
Okay.
And then you need to be a hunk, which is like a muscular person, in order to get the respect and all the attention. So I guess like I was really desperate for that, and I just had to like kind of like mold myself into being that person. But in that way, I discovered that I inherited a lot of like bad qualities from that toxic masculinity.
Okay.
And I'm now realizing that like I need to combat myself to just open up and just become more feminine and just more critical of myself and just move on.
What was the turning point for you from going from that sort of toxic masculine toxic masculinity space, couldn't get my words out, to sort of stripping it back and realizing that that wasn't you and you need to be a bit more true to who you are?
I think fashion. Was what really helped me. I did drag before, and then I realized from that experience that my thinking is always so binary. It's either I'm feminine or masculine.
Right.
And then discovering that I can be somewhere in between, that I do not have to associate myself with all like the strict qualities from each end and just be this like new form of identity. Like that makes me realize that I can just have both and not feel like if I'm too femme, that people would just not think that I'm masculine enough. I can just be in the middle and just be happy. And if people don't like that, like that's their problem. That's not mine. Like, because I want to be happy. I just want to enjoy being in this body that I have, and all the ideas, crazy thoughts I have, I want to honor them. I want to respect every single ideas I have.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So now that you're in that space, that mindset, and obviously you're a lot happier and more comfortable with who you are you critical of people who are not quite there, or can you see the struggles they're going through as well?
Not critical, definitely not, because I know like I'm still struggling with it.
You're still struggling with it.
Like I don't think I can ever I don't think like in the near future that I could wear a dress down the street like on a daily basis and not think about being attacked,
Like the repercussions,
or not feeling like self-conscious
in the
UK or anywhere in the world for that matter. To be honest, I don't think anywhere is fully safe to do that. I'm still struggling with it. So when I look at other people, I'm just like, I'm not going to like criticize other people for feeling that, because I know it's such a hard thing to do. It's not an easy life to go through all that stuff. So if I do see a person like that, like I think my first reaction would be like, how can I help? How can I create content or create anything, create art that's going to inspire you and myself to get to that comfortable and safe place in your mind?
Would you say that that's sort of the forefront of why you create the content you do?
Yeah. It took me a while to realize that. It took me a while to realize that that's my purpose. That's what I want to achieve with everything that I do. But I'm so happy that I found it, because when I was making content, sometimes I don't feel motivated enough to do it. And it's really hard to push through that without an idea of what I'm doing it for. And then now that I've found it, I'm like, fuck, like this is not me. This is not for me. This is bigger than me. This is for a whole group of people and to thrive together. So that's why I do it.
That's incredible. When did you start doing that? Like, so you started making content. What was the point where you realized that this was bigger than you and this could reach a lot more people who had been in the same positions you had been, or even in the space that you are now?
I think definitely the Kimono video.
Yeah.
The video that I did in Japan. I think that moment I realized, like, because it also adds on another layer. It's like you have to think about how your family is going to see you. And because I've escaped from them for so long that I didn't think about that anymore. And then now that I have to, I realize that like I'm in a position of like privilege to live the life that I could. And then not many people could do that. So I see that, I'm just like, damn, there's so many people still have to go through that. Even though like I feel like in the UK we just say, oh, like LGBT right is a given now, like you don't have to talk about it, like stop like pushing it into our faces. I'm just like, this world is so large, like it's not just about this country, about your life circle, it's about the whole world. If like in one part of the world that you can't be who you are, it's not done. There's so many people going through the same problem. And that like if you are just taking that for granted, like I think you might need to look at what's around you. Because like let's say in the US, like Roe v. Wade, like stuff like just like women's right just being taken away when like majority, like half, maybe I don't know how the ratio is, but like maybe half of the world is women, and like those whole group, like their rights is being taken away just in this split second.
Absolutely.
Like,
and for what?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's crazy.
Well, for like,
We know for what.
Well, for white men who are in power, who wants to sustain their power.
Yes.
And I just think that it's such a shame if we live in this world and we look at that and just being like, you know what, I'm just going to live comfortably. Like,
it takes a while. It does take a while for things to change. They do change, but it does take a while because people are comfortable and people hate change.
Yeah.
People
100%.
hate change when it's against the way they have always thought as well. So, you know, you're saying that there's still a lot of work to be done. And 100% there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
And then you have new things like, you know, people saying they're non-binary or using different pronouns, where even I've been reticent to be like, oh, what's that pronoun shit? Like, even I've been there like, that's nonsense. Like, it's like, what's this nonsense? It's he, she. It should be he, she. That's the only. And then you start to evolve and you start to learn, you meet different people and you hear their viewpoints and you're like, okay, I get it. And it's not down to us as individuals to judge anyone else for how they behave. Like,
exactly.
That's
Absolutely
their
not.
life.
Yeah.
That person who's saying that I'm not he or she, that's got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
And until you start realizing that, and it takes a while to get there, because we are stubborn.
Yeah.
All humans are stubborn. Some people who think they're not stubborn are the most stubborn people in the world.
Yeah.
Just because you're saying you're not stubborn doesn't mean that you're not stubborn.
It's true. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's good. You have to always be consistent. And what you're doing right now is brilliant. Because there's someone in the middle of, I don't know, Sudan, who maybe sees your post for 2 seconds and like,
maybe I can do this.
That's possible, yeah. Lays the groundwork.
Absolutely.
Going back to pronouns, I think like what the discussion has always been when people talk about it is like, oh, like so-and-so didn't want me to call them that. And like, why can't I just like have the freedom to just say whatever the fuck I want? And then like that just makes it sounds like all of the people who are in agreement or like having like the they pronouns, like we just think that, oh, we have to get everybody on board. Like, if you don't say this, we're going to criticize you or to crucify you. It's like, that's not how it usually is. Like, let's say like we have a conversation now, like I can tell you like, can you call me a they? And if you don't, I'm just like, you know what, like, it's not a big deal. But I feel like the news and like all the social media just make it sound like such a huge problem for people like us. But it's not. It's just like, if you don't respect us, cool, it's fine. Let's just move on. Yeah. It's like, I'm not like, the world is so large, like I'm not going to get tied down to just my interaction with you. Like, if you don't respect me, then like, it's okay.
It's a bit like what you said about your posts, your comments. They were mainly positive, but you have one or two people who are criticizing you. It's the same thing. It's like, I've got all these nice comments and I've got a few bad comments. Am I going to let those few bad comments get me down, or am I going to take on board the nice comments and let them build me up? It's the same thing with the pronoun thing, I guess. It's kind of like you just said, if someone doesn't want to say they, then I guess you just keep stepping on. And I'll talk to people that do want to call me they, respect me.
Because I believe that like we should be on the same intention or like the same like goal. The goal is not to like convey everybody to believe what we believe. Like, that's not the goal. I think the goal is just to like have our community on this like strong bond that supports each other, and also like gathering people who are allies and just you know, like sharing that lived and positive experience. It's not about the negative stuff. It's none of that. It's not about like having a march and then being, well, I mean, like that is cool too, but to me, like, it's not about like a war. It's not about like fighting each other until like I'm right, you're wrong. Like, it's not about that. That's just lame to me.
Also, it doesn't work.
No, it's just going to perpetuate the hatred.
Absolutely, the more like people's mindsets are set, and if you fight against it, like physically or even verbally fight against it, it's not going to change their mindset. Like, it may change their kids' mindset, but it's not going to change their mindset. They need to get there themselves.
Yeah, if anything, it's just going to like worsen kind of the relationship between like two groups of people. So I just don't think that's going to be the best solution for us.
No.
What about AI? Do you think AI can have an impact on these changes?
That segue though.
Yeah, I love that segue. So natural. Loved it.
King of the segues over here, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I think okay. So with AI, I think like when the kind of like general conversation when we talk about AI is always, is it good or is it bad? But we never really look at like what AI is, because AI could be many things. Like AI could be like Photoshop, like you just editing photos, like adding things in just a few seconds by AI, collecting like loads of data from every source of, I don't know, like resources. And then you can also have ChatGPT where you can create like text-based results and stuff like that. But you can also have like algorithm like Instagram, blah, 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 and then how you can program robots with AI. And then you can't really say like all of these things are bad, all of these things are good. They all have its own merits. For me, the way that I use it is, or how I see it is, I think it is perfect for people who doesn't have the resources or money to fund their businesses if they want to start from scratch, like a person like me. And also I have to balance social media, I have to balance making money, I have to balance, you know, like doing all sorts of things, like cooking for myself, like all sorts of stuff. Like you can't always have the time to like write a contract. You can't always have the time to edit every picture from scratch. And with AI stuff, like it is tools for you to kind of like to achieve your dreams.
Tools is the right word,
right?
Tools is the perfect
like
word.
Social media, like books, like in the internet, when it just came out, people were just like, oh, like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. Of course there are bad things that are associated with it, but there are also so many goods, and it really depends on how you use it, and also whether or not you are following up on all the kind of like negative that comes along with it, and whether or not you're making your voice heard in making the legislators aware of these problems and making changes that way.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
That is amazing. Is that the way that you have immersed yourself into AI?
Yeah.
What kind of things do you use it for?
Content, I write copy with AI stuff, and then the agreements that I send you guys I did on AI.
Of course so.
I
He gave it away. It's like when he said you use AI to, I'm pretty busy, I haven't got AI to write contracts. I knew, you wrote the contract like that.
That contract, I was like, okay.
Yes,
I was like,
that's what
many talents over here.
Of course.
No,
and like, that's
you've got
like
to, though.
I can never write something like that. I can never, or like it would take me like hours and hours, and I'm just like, I have to do content, I have to like wash my clothes, I have to do all that stuff. Like there's no way that I could like draw up a contract in just few minutes.
Honestly, I think that side of things, so I didn't know that was something that was accessible via AI, that you could draw up contracts. A friend of mine drew up a gym plan, food plan, like things like that, things that you just think are so like
complicated
menial and just
you have to pay someone to do it. Like now you don't have to.
And I was just like, okay, love that.
Yep.
I've actually, I mean, we spoke about AI a few weeks ago, a couple of times.
Yeah, we have.
I think I've changed my mind on it. Like I see it as a benefit, like you said, it's a tool.
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
you can, knife and fork is a tool as well. You can use it to eat food, or you can use it to kill someone. Like, it's a tool.
You can stab yourself with it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You can start a fire.
Who uses it really?
Exactly. Who uses it and how you use it.
How you use it as well, for sure. Because, like, for example, on our most recent episode, I used AI voice on a little segment, and it's just how you use it. Like, for me, the real problem is the people using it.
Yeah,
yes.
That's the problem.
The intention.
Yes, the intention behind it. Because it can go incredibly wrong, problematic, awful. I'm sure you've seen on the news with like child pornography being simulated via AI.
I haven't seen that.
Have you not?
Wow.
It's quite frightening. It's someone's just been arrested for creating content of child pornography. So that side of thing is like you say, it's who uses it. But on the side of sort of enhancing your creative portfolio, I think as a tool, it can go beyond.
I mean, let's face it, like humans create things and they will use it for good, and also equally they will use it for bad.
Exactly.
It's kind of like face recognition on an Apple phone. Like it makes your life so much easier by not having to type your password in. But then like, I'm not sure if you've seen this documentary called Coded Bias, where the police would use face recognition technology to recognize criminals by the data that the organization would put into the system.
Got you.
But they always misrecognize black people's faces. And then like if the police officer like have some sort of like bias against black people, then they would see the system, because it's so like inaccurate, right? That they'll always just see like, oh, some kid is being flagged, he's a criminal. let's go in on this kid.
With no further look into it.
Yeah, or like when he hasn't done anything. He's not a criminal. The system just failed to recognize his face. Yeah. So I mean, like, these things are bound to happen, but I think it's really like us. If you really care about it, like, it's up to us to actually find out more and be like really conscious of what's happening and spreading the information and just actually like making a change by actually like going to like the people that's responsible for governing these things, rather than just sitting on the couch and just being like, this is bad. This is bad.
I think that's what most people do, isn't it? They sit on the couch and they go through their Instagram and like double tip. That's the contribution to the world. Like, bang bang, I like that. Don't like that. So that's kind of what everyone's contribution.
But the thing is that I don't want to like shame them for it, because like before I did content, like that's how I was before as well. Like that's how I just be like taking new information in, just like, this is bad, so bad. But then like now actually I have a platform that understand the power of that, like the potential, and that the most important bit is that everybody can do that. Everybody can get out of that zone of like, I'm working a 9-to-5 job, my voice don't matter, I'm just like I like to like watch films on a weekend and just go back to work during the week. Like life is more than that. Like we have so much more power than that.
But you know what? It's never going to be a case of the many making the changes. It's always going to be a case of the few making the changes.
Yeah.
And when you said that you felt like your purpose was to now change people's perceptions of certain things, you're one of those few who are making changes to many. So that's the way it typically is.
But also it relies on the people though. Like, because the change is happening within them. But I think like, I'm just like the catalyst.
You are the catalyst.
And that's the best way to look. I think that's a great phrasing for who you are and what you're doing is the catalyst.
Yeah, because I know I've seen so many like of those like influencers who wanted to be like the leader of like some sort of like movement, but I just always think it's not as good as they think that it would be. It just always turned into a cult, and I'm just like,
not a cult.
It's very cultic, very that.
Oh my gosh!
You're not starting a cult, are you?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. The fact you had to think about that is quite worrying to me.
Maybe. No, not in that way. Not in that way. No.
I recently saw, and you showed me that the AI you did on a few pictures that you did.
Editing. Yeah, like it's so helpful.
What kind of editing was it?
So I wore a dress outside Buckingham Palace.
Oh, I saw the reel.
Did you see it?
Yeah.
And I got a little like ribbon flying in the air, and I wanted to make it more dramatic, so I literally just selected the area like next to my neck and just put in pink ribbon flying in the air. And 2 minutes later, pink ribbon is flying in the air.
That's incredible.
And it looks so realistic.
So that was all AI, the way that the garment
Some of them, but some are actually real. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. But this is the thing though, like, for me, it's really about creativity when it comes to these tools. It's about like just creating things rather than trying to like make money, trying to like it'll be nice to make money, but it's not about that. It's about like the art. It's about creating, and without AI, I don't think I can get to that level because of all the things that's going on, right? Like we're so busy with life. It allows people like small content creator like us to just really pursue our dreams and just make something fucking incredible, and without having to like spill all this cash, you know?
Well, if you think about a lot of movies nowadays, what's the common denominator? Common denominator is they have a lot of special effects. So you have a director, he has an idea, wants to blow something up, for example. He goes to a special effects artist. They spend 3 to 4 months making that happen. Yeah. Now that's changed, because ultimately what creativity is, how do you get from there to the end result? Yeah. Now with AI, you're getting there faster. So your idea is that you don't have time to spend doing Photoshop and learning Photoshop and making a ribbon fly in the air. You can do that now in a few seconds. So it's the same result, it's just a lot quicker.
Yeah, but also because I am actually trained in Photoshop.
Oh, you are?
I studied, like, I worked as a graphic designer like years before, so I knew the ropes. So I think
knew what to do, what to look out for.
So like even with AI, you still have to have some knowledge to actually create a picture, because like you can create, like you can add stuff in, but then if you don't know how to color grade, if you don't have like a good idea of like composition, then it's not going to help you that much. You kind of need to have both happening at the same time. So for me, it's not about just like getting rid of like the process, getting rid of the skills, because that is like the what I get so obsessed about with creativity is like is the process. Like even though it's great to have like people looking at your work like, this is great, amazing, they like it, amazing, that gives me the fuel to keep going. But when I'm in my room doing my own work, like the process is what I am about. It's like that gives me so much value, because I'm learning. I'm more than just what people see me as, because I have the skills.
It's the building, isn't it? It's the building.
Yeah. So I would tell people, like, don't rely on AI. You still need your skills and techniques and knowledge.
No, I definitely agree.
Yeah, no, totally. I think what a lot of people don't realize is when you're trying to achieve something, it's not about where you end up. It's always about the journey.
Yeah.
It's always about the journey. For me, whenever I make a film, like the start to when the film's finished is the most beautiful part. The part afterwards is boring. And that sounds really bad, but it's just that beauty. Yes, it's 100%. The effort, it's the tears, it's the blood. Yeah, that's what you remember. You don't remember when the film's released. It's like whatever. Yeah, like, you remember everything before that, and it's the same process here. It's like you learn so much from just sitting in your room, just going over a picture over and over again.
Because it is that process going to give you the confidence. Because like, I believe that like confidence is like a cumulative like experiences where you set your mind to do something and then you actually did it, and then you can actually revisit those experiences and tell yourself like, hey, like I told myself I can do this, I did it, I can do this.
Yes.
Even though I feel scared and nervous, I can do this because based on my track record, I have that discipline, I have the principles, I have the drive, I can do this. So for me, like it's always about that process of learning, failing, and then finding out how you failed and learning from that.
Yes.
I love that. That sequence of events is so critical to building you and who you are, for sure.
And if you just jump to like the end point, like you're not gonna have all of that. It's always just be like, oh, like, I got this thing, like lots of people who liked my things, but why? You just stuck there, be like, oh, I don't actually understand. But when you actually been through that process, you understand every single like nuance of what makes people tick.
Yes.
I feel this is why people don't like privilege. It's the same principle. It's like when you have privilege, either pretty privilege or money privilege or whatever, you're not going through that. You're not going through that journey. It's like literally everything's coming towards you. You don't appreciate it. Like I really appreciate like the hours I spent on Photoshop or on editing videos. I really appreciate that time. That's what I remember. And if I had just woken up and learned Photoshop, I'd be like, oh, that's great, but like, did I earn it? Not really. I really earn it.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I always wanted to have those kind of privilege, like pretty privilege, or like having a family that knows everything, that could just like set you up, like, and then you can just have a business in like split second. They'll loan you like a large amount of money and just start whatever you want. I always wanted that, but now that I've been through this thing for the past like 6 or 7 years, I just realized that like this might be the better way to achieving your dreams.
Yeah.
It's like when I like make money and stuff, like I feel like if I'm rich, I would just not really see the struggle of like not being able to pay rent. Like what I'm gonna do, like I have to like be so resourceful like in everything that I do, and just making, or just like be able to live.
Well, your mindset will be so different. Like you're talking about helping people, you're talking about changing people's lives. If you had that money just given to you and you didn't know about this life that you've been through, you would not care
or understand those people's feelings.
Like you would not care. You'd be so far above that. You'd be like, whatever, okay, someone's struggling, okay, cool, whatever, next. Where's my caviar?
Exactly.
Like,
where's the entertainment value? Unless you can film yourself like giving money to other people, then there's no use to you, right?
That is a thing, which baffles me.
Very frustrating.
It does baffle me so much.
It's really frustrating.
So much. Like, stop that.
And people buy into it as well.
They do, of course.
That's the thing. That's the thing to me. I'm just like, really? Like,
you give money to a tramp and you record it. What?
A tramp.
What?
Love a tramp.
Honestly,
like if it done in the proper way, then but not in a way that like, hey, followers, look, And here at the chateau, I'm giving them shirts.
Yeah.
Yes. Can you buy my products?
Yeah. Doing a good deed for the sake of it to glorify yourself is so icky.
It's,
Yeah. 100%.
But, John, last question. What's next?
Ooh, okay, I love this question. Okay, so what I do is art, what I do is content, what I do is modeling, and I have like this value that's tying everything together, right? So I want to be able to share my vision of what we can be and how we can be in order to feel like the truest selves, like ourselves. And I think what I will continue to do is with my content, I'm going to continue like inspiring people with my fashion and with my art. I just got into a residency program with a charity group established by Alexander McQueen. And I hope that through the foundation, through the residency, I can get more of a sense of who I am meant to be in 10 years. So like why I want to create stuff and like more than helping people, like how can I use art to understand myself more and also the world around me. And then I just want to make more money. Not in a conceited way.
Be conceited.
As everything,
Don't we all?
everybody would, yeah, right. Like many people would expect like money to be the bad thing. Don't aspire to have more. But I think like money is going to enable all of us to make changes that so few can. And I hope that I can like have that intention for as long as I can for the rest of my life, hopefully, and to focus on making changes and making people's lives better.
Absolutely. Everything crossed.
Yeah, 100%.
I have one last question.
Of course you do.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Yes.
Ask
John,
away.
what is your favourite film?
Oh my god, this is so hard. That's the hardest. Oh no. Okay.
Sorry. Should have briefed you on this before.
Yeah, that should have been a question.
There's so many. Okay. Well, I mentioned Lady Gaga, so I have to say A Star Is Born.
There we
Yes.
go. There we go.
Yes, it's the dream.
There
It's
you
the
go.
dream
Yes.
to like you know that you're capable of doing something, and that you just need that one person to believe in you.
That's beautiful.
I love that. What a way to end.
Yes. What's the outro? Because I feel like you guys are still figuring it out. Let's talk about it. Yes.
We have zero outro.
What's
Should we make an outro?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts? Any ideas?
Wait, what did you say before? I think like you said something.
To start, I said and go.
Anger, and then you said to and end or something.
And end.
In one of the episodes, I think that's what you said,
Did I?
or something like that.
Oh, you did?
Oh, you said and no.
And no,
That's
and
what
no.
you said.
Yeah.
I feel like no is such a negative
It's
word.
so
It's going
negative
to
to
put it
put it
in the bad
out.
space.
No, yeah.
And done.
And done.
I
Should
like
we do that one?
Okay.
Okay.
Let's
Before
make
you
it
do
happen.
that, can we ask you to please like and subscribe? John's been
Yes.
absolutely fantastic.
Thank
what an
you so
amazing
much.
guest.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for telling
Like-
us so much.
Thank you. Like and subscribe, guys.
Go on, do it. Take us out.
And done.
Oh.
That'll do.
Okay. That's about.